So there's this acronym that has picked up a lot of popularity recently called FIRE. It stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And essentially the goal with FIRE is that you save up as much money as possible and then you invest it in constant income streams like maybe a rental home or a dividend paying stock. And then you pretty much live off that income purely moving forward. Now on the surface that sounds like a great idea. Who doesn't want to retire early and just live off constant income? Who doesn't want to wake up in their 20s or 30s, have tons of years ahead of them in life and never have to work again? But most of all, who doesn't want to live their life without having to worry about money at all? Yeah, of course we all want this. That's kind of a no-brainer. But the problem with FIRE goes much deeper than that. So really to achieve FIRE, there's two main things you need to do. The first is you need to save as much money from your income source right now or income sources as you can. The second is kind of twofold, and unless you are in a high income bracket right now, which is not the norm, you will pretty much have to live fairly frugally to save up as much as possible to achieve FIRE. And even once you do retire, you'll have to most likely live fairly frugally from that point on as well. So just as an example, say you earn $50,000 a year right now after taxes, but you end up spending a lot of your money on miscellaneous things like, the latest iPhone, maybe your rent or your mortgage, maybe your car insurance or car payments, eating out, or other random things that you do in your day-to-day life. Now, based on this $50,000, say you end up saving 10% of your income, which equates to $5,000 a year. Using some simple math, 50,000 minus 5,000, this essentially means you need $45,000 a year to sustain your current lifestyle. Keep in mind this is around $45,000 after taxes. Now say you're a really good saver of your income and you save half of your yearly income, so $25,000 a year. This still means that you need to cash flow $25,000 a year once you retire to sustain your lifestyle. Now for most people who want to FIRE, they will look at investing in dividend paying stocks because it's kind of the easiest way to receive passive income without a lot of work and without any high barriers of entry to get into that. And on average, a good dividend paying portfolio will pay anywhere between 3 and 4% annually. So for this example, let's assume kind of the midpoint there of around 3.5%. So if you earn 3.5% annually from your dividends, and you want to sustain that $25,000 a year lifestyle that you're living right now, it essentially means that you need around $714,000 invested in dividend-paying stocks to sustain this. Now keep in mind, this calculation does not include taxes that you're going to have to pay on those dividends. But either way, $714,000 is a lot to save for the average person. And if you're saving $25,000 a year, which is, again, theoretically half of your income, it'll take you 29 years to save up that retirement fund. If you start saving when you retire from college, say you're 21 years old, this would mean you're essentially going to be 50 years old when you retire. Sure, that's earlier than the average person at around 65, but 50 isn't exactly retiring young. And really all of this time that you've spent kind of saving as much as you can, living fairly frugally, not spending on things that you may want when you were younger, also you can retire when you're 50. And the funny thing is that this calculation doesn't even account for other life expenses. Say you get married, you have to pay for a wedding. Say you have kids, kids are not cheap. Say your rent price increases over time. These are all things that are not really factored into this calculation, which go against you and actually set you back even more. So those 50 years may end up being 54 years, 55 years. And as you can see, it's bringing you closer and closer to that 65-year regular retirement that most people do. And sure, the counter argument could be that your income is most likely going to grow over time as you become more senior in the company, and that most likely will happen. However, for a safe calculation, you shouldn't necessarily bet on that. There's a chance that you could lose your job. There's a chance that you could just be stagnant in your job. There's a lot of things that could happen, so I wouldn't necessarily bet on pay raises to kind of achieve FIRE even quicker. You could also make the argument that, if you get married, that your significant other will also have an income source now, so you've kind of doubled your income source. And while that is true, your expenses will also increase typically. You may need a larger place. Your significant other may have more debt that they need to pay off. There's a lot of other factors that come in with that, so it's not necessarily so cut and dry. There are some situations, yes, that when you have two income sources, you guys have paid off all your debts, you're happy with your living conditions, you could achieve FIRE even quicker. But realistically, most people carry debt here in this country, so you can't really say that, when you get married or you get with your significant other, that there's no other added expenses and there's just another stream of income that comes in. But really, all of this aside, my biggest gripe with FIRE is that you may not be living the best quality of life while trying to achieve, and even after you've achieved FIRE. You know how that saying goes, oh, don't buy that Porsche when you're young. Instead, use that money and invest it in the markets, and then when you're older, you can buy a car that's much nicer than a Porsche, maybe a Lamborghini. And the problem here, if you haven't figured it out already, is that when you're young, if you're trying to achieve FIRE, you're living frugally, there's no way you can afford that Porsche. You invest that money, and then eventually when you retire, well, it's going to be the same situation. You still don't have all that money to go and spend on a nice car. So you're still left kind of regretting and wishing that you bought it when you were younger. And really, with people who are FIRE and, living frugally, the realistic piece to that is that, buying a Porsche or any other nice fancy car is never going to be financially feasible or financially smart. So maybe you should just never do that. And really, after a certain point, you need to ask yourself, does it make sense for me to go out and live frugally right now for the next, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, just so that I can retire and continue living that frugal life after that? And you got to keep in mind that even after you retire and you have that dividend income coming in, you're still not necessarily going to be able to do and buy whatever you want. So the question I really ask is, does that really sound like financial independence to you? To me, financial independence is being able to afford whatever I want, whenever I want, and being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. If I still have to worry about my expenses, if I still have to worry about, can I afford this? Does this make sense financially? That to me right there means that I am not financially independent. And this is something I see a lot of people miss when they talk about FIRE. Like I said, conceptually, it sounds amazing to live off of your dividend income or your rental property income and retire early. But realistically, if you want to do the things that you want when you're older or even when you're younger, and you actually want to retire without having to worry about money, you will most likely have to have a higher paying job now and throughout the years so you can save up essentially millions in your account. And what many people don't realize with FIRE is that you will actually be living fairly frugal, in my opinion, for the rest of your life. Yes, you don't have a job to worry about, and yes, your expenses are most likely paid for if you accounted for that, but that's essentially it. Unless, like I said, you have a higher income source, you're not going to have that much spending money to do whatever you want and buy whatever you want. You would literally need millions in your investment account or in investment properties to cash flow so you're able to do literally whatever you want and travel literally wherever you want. But the sad reality is, some people, no matter how frugal they are today, will never have millions in their bank account, no matter how hard they work. Now, I don't want this video to be negative and not encourage you to save as much as possible and be financially responsible, because that's definitely not the intention of this video. But the one thing I wanted to get through and kind of drill home here is that a lot of people that are FIRE or are trying to achieve FIRE have to live frugal lives now and when they retire as well. So if that does not sound like something that you want, then maybe FIRE isn't the best route for you. But regardless of your situation, it's always a good idea to save as much as you can right now so that you can set yourself up for a good retirement down the road. In my opinion, you should still enjoy your younger years of life because there are many things you can do now that you won't be able to do later on in life. And if you're just focused on living frugally and just saving as much money as possible and not enjoying those things in life, you may come to regret that when you're older. In my mind, there's a good balance between kind of a YOLO life and a FIRE life. And when you can kind of figure that out for yourself and figure out, these are the kind of things I want to do when I retire, these are the kind of things I want to spend my money on when I retire, then you can actually set yourself up for a much more realistic goal. Maybe that means you work longer in life, but at least it means you can do the things that you want to do and retire the way that you want to retire. So I hope this video kind of opened up your mind a little bit about the whole FIRE movement. Don't just fall victim to the hype here. There's a lot of YouTubers that go out and say that FIRE is the best thing since sliced bread. Just keep in mind that it may not be right for you. It may not be the path you want to go down. And if that's the case, that is completely fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's your life. Live it the way you want to. Enjoy it the way you want to. And most importantly, don't have any regrets. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a huge like on this video. I really, really do appreciate that. And if you're brand new here and want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below to join the community. I hope you found some value in this video. And if you have a friend that's kind of looking towards FIRE or thinking about FIRE, maybe share this video with them to give them more perspective on this topic as well. But either way, don't forget to invest positively, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.